All right, testing, testing. This is Delta Peng from Peng Tech, name pending, and today we're going to go over something that's probably the least fun part of it, which is trying to get everything set up, get your environment set up so that you can start coding with React. It's a bit of it's not too bad, but generally whenever you have developer setup, it can be a little painful or annoying sometimes. But the goal of this video is to hopefully get that done as pain-free as possible. So let's get started. Earlier in the videos, we downloaded Visual Studio Code, which is a code editor to help you format the code as you write it, and sort of point out mistakes and highlight the different keywords and variables to help you, just to help you code better and catch mistakes early. So let's take a look at that Visual Studio Code. Yep. Yeah, and sometimes it just helps to see someone do it and makes it easier. All right, so Visual Studio Code. Just click that guy, and this is for Windows. Setup for Windows. Okay, getting that downloaded. Let's see. Okay, we'll get that started. And this should be open multi-platform, so you should be able to download this thing also for Mac and Linux. Okay, and here in this case, I think we just take all the defaults, and that should be fine. All right, let's take a look. None of my example files are on this machine, but we can do a little bit of testing. New file. Let's do some test JSON. Go ahead and desktop. Okay. Key value. Name. Oops. Save. Okay. Yeah, looks like it's working generally. All right, cool. Let's see. Oops. Name. There you go. Comma. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I had to put a comma to correct that. So good. All right. That's good. That's good. So that's the first part. Now we need to download something called Git. This is kind of like something called Git and Git Bash for Windows. So Git Bash. This is like downloading a command line interface that's Linux. That's similar to the ones that Linux devices use, I guess you'd say. So Git for Windows, this is the one we're looking for. Okay, download. Yeah, because you're familiar with the command window, so press the Windows. Oops, okay. Actually, let's see. Actually, I'm curious, does it tell you I'm pressing the Windows button? Okay, well, I pressed the Windows button. Nope. Come on. Windows button, command. So that's similar to this. where you can, this is kind of like how you would interact with the computer before we had all of our GUI windows created. But it's still useful for certain things like executing commands on servers, or just like just working with programs in general. It can be useful or faster at times. Let me see. Let me get this program installed. Okay, so this is the default one that comes with Windows, and we want to install something called Git, which will also give us a command line interface called Git Bash, which will be kind of like this, but it'll work a little bit more like the Linux ones do. So okay, let me get this going. Next. It says it already exists because I installed it earlier, but I uninstalled it so that we could go through the process in this video. So Git. In this case, we want to let's use Visual Studio Code as the default editor. It's more modern, and it's our code editor of choice, we'll say. I like the master branch, and that's the defaults. I'll keep that. Recommended third party, okay. OpenSSH, all right. SSL, it's fine. Okay, experimental stuff. Now we'll ignore that. All right, so now it's good. It's doing its thing. It's the power of, again, kind of like programming with a black box, right? We just click OK, and now it's running like thousands or millions of command lines, or maybe like tens of thousands, and creating all these files, putting them in all the places that they're supposed to be. That's part of the power of programming. So let's see. I'll keep that rolling. And, actually, I don't know any. Okay. That's program number 2. Okay, cool. So let's see. So some of the commands that you manage here, let's see, like directory, dir, short for directory. It will go and it'll list all the files. It should be all the files in that folder. So if we take a look here, let's see if we can find that. Right click, left click, this PC, C. I think this is probably, let's see if this works. I've been working more with Bash lately, so I don't know some of the equivalent regular Windows command line ones, but I should be in, whoops. Yeah, I'm in users minipeng. So, whoops, that's not the one. Users minipeng. Okay. So VS Code git config, git config, I see it. Contacts, desktop documents. Okay, yeah, so this is like a text version of what you would see here. So this is a GUI, where graphical user interface, and that's what most people are more familiar with seeing, where you can go and you can just like, okay, I want to go into favorites, so I double click it and then poof, I'm there. Before those days, you would use the command line and you're like, oh, I want to go into favorites. Well, you can't, it's not, I'm highlighting text when I click this, but it's not actually like interactable in that way. So instead, I'd have to do something like cd for change directory, favorites, okay? So I did FA, and then I pressed tab, and then it filled out the rest of it because that's the only unique item that meets that text so far in the folder that I was typing in. So that's a handy shortcut. So okay, so now I'm in C users minipeng favorites. So if I type in a directory again, I see a Bing URL and a favorites bar. Okay, yeah, so it looks like it's working. But yeah, this is just a text version of the nice graphical version of it. Okay, so I'm exiting out of that, and now I'm going to Windows key bash. Let's see, git bash. So So this one, it's kind of a similar thing. And I'll create a video later about some of the basics of using Linux. But let's see, if I press the command pwd, present working directory, it says I'm in C users minipeng, and this little squiggly line is the same as that. The squiggly line means your user's home directory. So if I type ls, it gives me a list of files in that folder. Again, if we go back one, that list should mirror this list here. NT user, VS Code, okay. And some of these files are hidden, so you don't see them at the moment. But like contacts, cookies, okay, I don't see cookies. Contacts, desktop, documents. If it starts with a dot, that should mean that it's a hidden file or folder. Okay, well, where were we before? Favorites, let's check out favorites. So if I go similar, cd favorites, FA tab, okay, cool, enter. Okay, what's inside? ls. Okay, similar, so Bing URL, favorites, well, actually, Bing URL, links, desktop. That's kind of curious. Is it inside here? All right, that's a little bit curious. I'm not sure what it's seen right here, but okay, cd links. Now, is this home directory different than? No, it says it's supposed to be. Okay, well, not quite sure at the moment, not quite sure. So we'll leave that for now. And then when we create our own files, then we'll see that everything matches up appropriately. I don't know if this is maybe some Linux files that it's seen. I'm not really sure. But anyway, first program, Visual Studio Code. Second program, Git Bash. What's next? We need something called npm and node to be installed. So what is that? Let's go ahead and get this started, and then we can explain it as it's loading, because it takes a while. Install npm and node Windows. Yeah, and I'm going to say download and install Node.js and npm. Yeah, and so once we download npm, that stands for Node Package Manager. It'll help us install other libraries or packages from other developers. And so we're going to need that for sure. Windows Node installers. So if you're using Windows, go to this download page. Yep, so here's the official page, nodejs.org. LTS should stand for, I think, long-term support, so it's a stable version. Windows installer, yep, that's the one. Nope. So .exe, that's the extension of a program, a Windows program, executable file. MSI is like Microsoft and software installer, so it's similar. Okay, so I'm going to go run this guy. All right, next. And I probably installed this before too, but let's see if it'll let us go through some Node. I usually check this guy. It says automatically install the necessary tools. That makes it sound like that's something we want. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's install. Yep. If you see something like this, that means it needs administrator permission. So if it's, you can double check, okay, is this the correct program that I asked to open? Is it from the correct place, not a scammer? Okay, I think so. So I say yes, then I do want to install it. Okay, so it's doing its thing. I'll put it over here for now. Yeah, so basically when it comes to website development, it's kind of unique in that, successfully installed. And so now this part, it opens up this window because it needs to install some extra third-party stuff. So I click in here to get the focus, and then I press any key to continue. All right, I'll let this do its thing. Oh, it needs permission to open PowerShell. As an admin, I'll say yes. This is another Windows command line interface with some extra features compared to the standard CMD line. And this will take a while. It'll be doing a lot of processing. But let's see. So yeah, JavaScript or website development is different than a lot of the other programming languages. I mentioned that part of the goal of a good programmer and writing good code is that you don't repeat yourself. You follow the drive principle, and you try to make it so that your code can be reused in multiple places. Aside from that, you can also, if you're using things like APIs, right, you can connect to different, you can visit different URL websites, and then it's like connecting to their API, which will, talk to their servers, they'll process some data, and then they'll return a result to you, usually in the form of JSON data. Okay, so when it comes to, so that's kind of a way that you can like share code with other people and share functionality with other people. But what I've noticed is in React, maybe because it's naturally like website development and you're naturally kind of online, or it's you're creating stuff to be placed online. It uses like a lot more packages than other software would use. Like if you're just creating a C# program, I mean, I guess it does use a lot of libraries, but it seems like there's more, or maybe it's just more apparent because we use NPM when we're working with it. But like NPM, Node Package Manager, what it does is it'll get a bunch of like common code from different places and it'll stick it in your project. So even if you're creating a basic website, it'll still get like, I don't know, 100 or 200 megabytes of other library code from other places that it uses to assist or give your code functionality, or just to have the React functionality in place. So it'll make a bit more sense when we look at it and as it goes. I'm not doing anything right now. This is all just the magic of the computer, so to speak. This is all the command lines. Some of the command lines and stuff that it's running in the background and then spitting out output for us. But it kind of gives you a sense of the gist of what it's doing. And we don't really need to worry about it unless you see like an error or maybe like red text somewhere. Some of this is just like a message, hey, it's not installed, so they're going to install it. Yeah, but for the most part, this is pretty standard, and you just kind of wait for it. And this might take a while, maybe like 5 to 10 minutes or so. Maybe a bit faster. I might have installed this again. I might have installed this beforehand. But let's see. Yeah, so it feels like JavaScript or React, when you're creating these projects through NPM, it definitely feels like there's a lot of extra code that's kind of being imported in automatically. So NPM is the program that manages all that for you, because otherwise there's like 100+ programs, and like what happens if one of them changes? How are you going to keep track of that? Or if one of them updates, how are you going to manage that? And so instead of doing it manually, NPM is the system, the manager that helps keep all that up to date and helps you install programs and get the code files for it. So if some of that shared code is imported in, and if your program or some other library depends on it, then that's called a dependency. So at least at minimum, it needs to load up all the dependencies. And then from there, you can optionally find other libraries and then add them to your project if you want to. Some examples could be like, I don't know, there's NPM. Let's see. Well, NPM, that's kind of redundant, but okay. Here, and they have a bunch of different packages. So like, if you wanted to create like a star rating or something in one of your websites, because there's commonly websites where you have like five stars and you can choose one of them. Choose like a star rating, kind of like Amazon when you're rating a product, right? So instead of creating that yourself, you can look here and see if someone already created something, and then if so, you can potentially import it into your project, download that library or package, and then you can start using it. I will say that you do need to have some caution though. This one hasn't been updated for 6 years. And how many people are downloading it? There's about four downloads per week. And then MIT's, that's a good license. That means it's like open source, but other licenses might be more strict, and so you have to look out for copyright potentially. And there's also the factor of some of this might not be legitimate code. I mean, it might not work like you expect, and not legitimate in the sense that there could be bad intentions behind it. It'll tell you it does something, but there's not a guarantee that that's what it actually does. There's a chance that it could be a hacker trying to run bad code on your system. So as a heads up, there is some caution, and you have to be careful of some of that. And if you're unsure, generally, you can check around on the internet, see how popular it is, and generally speaking, hopefully, the more popular it is, or the more collaborators it has, if it's like an open source kind of project, which means that a bunch of people work on it and it's kind of code that's freely public, so to speak. But if it's code like that, then there's more guarantee that it's probably safe to run and not going to be giving you issues. Yeah, but this one's really old, so even if it was good code, it might not be good code anymore, just because it's so old. The standards might have changed and whatnot. But that's kind of a sample of what NPM is. What is Node? Node is, I believe it's like a web server that you can run locally, because when we're developing React websites, or websites in general, we need something to be able to interpret the code, the website code basically, on the fly. Like that's one reason why I guess JavaScript and website code can be run from any OS. It's cross-platform, so you can run it from Windows, you can run it from Mac, Linux. You can also run it from, it's being run from your web browser actually, so that's why you can run it from your mobile device, your phone, your tablet, even though those don't have the full operating systems either, because the code, that kind of code is generated, I believe it's interpreted on the fly or compiled on the fly, if I'm getting that right from a technical standpoint. But because of that, we need this program called Node that will set up that kind of web development server for us. That's just the gist of what it does. You don't really need to know or really understand it, but that's the reason why we need it. Okay. So it's gonna take a little bit more time, but while it's doing that, we can create some files for this. And so this is the file system of the OS, and people arrange code, or arrange their digital files. All these are digital files or folders. Everyone kind of arranges their stuff in different ways, but the way I like to do it is I like to have a folder called OneGit. Basically Git, but I use the one to keep it on top because it's numerically sorted. And then I'll have different projects here in different folders. Let me see. folder. Let's say test, 0 test. So just doing it so I can keep it up top. 0 test examples. I'm going to rename that. Okay. I mentioned a little bit about Git before. So what is Git? Git is a way to, it's like a way of doing source control. The source is another word for code. So it's a way to store your code and also keep track of the changes as you make as you're making the code. The reason that's useful is it allows multiple people to work on the project at the same time if they want to, and as you're making code, there's a possibility that you could create a bug on accident. So having multiple save points within your code, basically, whenever you commit your code, you're basically creating a save state. Having multiple save states allows you to be able to go back to the code if you ever need to. So like if you add some new code and it breaks the website and the website goes down, having the save state lets you go backwards to when it was working and then sort of like piece out, okay, well, which line of code broke my code, or why did this happen? So it's definitely very useful. Oh, nice. I see movement. You can do it, buddy. Oh, is it? Okay, nice. Yeah, so you could see it took a while, but then eventually it gets to a point like this, like, okay, enter to exit. So I'm going to click in here to put my focus back here. Press enter. Okay, good. So now Node is cleared. Let's make sure that it actually exists on our system. So I'm going to open up a git bash back to the command line. But because npm and Node are like a command line kind of program, just in case, I'm going to exit out of here, and then I'll enter a new instance of git bash just to make sure it loads up all the latest code or path environment variables and stuff. Okay, let me think. So I can either just Windows and search for bash, open it there, but in this case I want to open it. I'd like to open it in this test examples folder I just created. So I'm going to right click, git bash here, and so it opens the bash window, but it sets me at the location I was at, which is great. Okay, so let me think. If we really have npm installed now, we should be able to do npm space -b. This means run the program that's called npm, and then give it in this case, the version flag. So if I run this, and if it exists, it should give me the version of npm. Okay, nice, 9.5.0. How about Node? Because that's also a program that I can use, Node version. Perfect. Okay, so I have 3 things here. I kind of wonder if I have this or not. Okay, I also have npx. It might have been installed with npm. But again, there's a slight chance that I might have installed this on my own. If I did, if you need it, you can always look for npm install, or npx install. So npm.js, and then this will give you how you would install it. You would use npm program, and how you would install the npx program or library. So if you try to run later on, I'm going to run an npx command. If it doesn't work for you, you can run this guy, and then it should work. Let's see, this guy was published 3 years ago, but it got downloaded 70,000 times in a week, so it's pretty popular. There's a lot of people who worked on it, so that's a good sign also. Okay, let me think. Yeah, so I did interrupt a little bit when I was saying, okay, our program installed. I interrupted a little bit when I was talking about Git. But yeah, the benefits of Git is that it allows you to, save state at different points, lets multiple people work on the same project, and if there's issues between the people that are working on it, it allows you to resolve those conflicts and merge those conflicts together. I'll see if I can give you a quick example. One of the most popular place to store your Git repos is a place called github.com. And again, you create your code, and to enable source control on it, there's a way to, there's a command you can run to implement Git on it, and basically to tell Git to start tracking it whenever you run the commands. And maybe someday we'll create a video about that. But for now, from just a practical standpoint, I'll show you a little bit. Give me a second. Okay, are we back? All right, we're back. All right, had to log into my accounts. So now I'm in my GitHub. And so just to give you kind of an example, let's see. So I'm in my GitHub username project. And then so in here, this is a bit of, I don't know, the Git repo, or basically the project code. So just a couple of folders, files, the last change, source, more files. So in this case, let's see, this project is kind of newly uploaded because I'm sharing some code. So I want to find somewhere where it changed. So apt.tsx, so TypeScript. So here's the code itself. You can see it's formatted similar to Visual Studio Code. It nicely tries to color everything. Aside from that, if I went and I could go and check, like, okay, what's the last commit or history? Let me try commit. I want to see the changes. Okay, perfect. So between one save point and another, for this file, I only changed the version number. So you can see a little bit here, there's red. So this was what was removed. I removed a 1 right here, and the green is what I was added. So I changed the 1 to a 2, basically. And it's just a snippet of the code here. So the power of Git is it allows you to, again, keep track of your changes so that if you break something and it's like, oh, I know it's in this file or this folder, it'll help you narrow it down. And then also if you want to share it, you can do code, and you can use this thing to help share your code and have it on multiple machines now. And this means that, hey, you could have like 5, 10, 100 people working on the same code, but this is like the golden version on this website. So everyone's working on the code, different people, they're working on different parts of it. And then whenever one person gets done, or whenever one team gets done, they can commit the code, git commit it back to the master version. And then anyone else who needs that code, they can run some command to get the latest code that was committed to the master or the golden version of the code, in essence. And then if there's a problem, if like 2 people try to change the same code, then Git will let you know, hey, there's a conflict, resolve it before we put it in. But so that just gives you a lot of power and gives you a way to work together, find bugs easier, create like a golden version of it, and be able to create a save state so you can go back to it and things like that. All right. So that's a lot, but that's kind of the gist of it. Okay, so we got Node, we got NPM, so we're almost ready to go and create React websites now. We're getting really close. So close you can smell it. You can smell it. So what I like to use is something called Create React App, and it's a way to help you get a React project started really quick, a template, and then you just build it out from there. So let me think. I know it's called Create React App. Okay. And so I was testing it a little bit earlier and I ran into the wrong one. And so let me think. This one should be the right one. So I'm going to go create React app. So here's the command you run, npx. It's similar to npm. It's just, I don't know. It might do some extra stuff. So I'm inside this folder here, right? So if I type ls, I'm going to see nothing. There's no files in it, or no files in or under this folder. So I'm going to right click, paste, npx create react, and what's the name of the project? I'll call it test super cool test app. How about that? Enter. So it's running this command, and npx program is running the create react app command to create a super cool test app project. And it's creating it at this location here under the 0 test examples. And you can see, look at it, I created that folder there. And now it's getting us ready. It's getting, looks like it's installing React, React DOM, React scripts. Okay, so let's give this maybe a few minutes. While it's working, we can even take a look here. So, okay, it's created one file so far. And one of the things it's going to create is a folder called Node Modules. Node Modules is the folder that contains all the packages and libraries that we were talking about earlier that NPM gathers, collects, manages, and updates for you. Here it is. There it is, Node Modules. So this is a bunch of code. It'll be like 200 megabytes of code by the time it's done. And so I'll open it up and show you the gist of it later, just to show you like how much code it's importing in. It's a little bit crazy. Okay, more files are being created, so that's what this program's doing. Should be getting close. Okay, all done. So, and you can tell it's done because it kicked us back to the kind of like the command line area. So, okay, so back to, okay, super cool test app was created. Here's all the items that they created. And here's Node Modules. Here's the libraries. There's, let's see, how much is there? Control A. There's 826 folders of content that it gave us in that, and all of that. That's just crazy. So I know it said it added a few things, like what it added a folder called React. So let's look around for it. Okay, REA, okay, there's React DOM, I mentioned that. So if I look into it, it contains all this other code. And all this stuff is stuff that you shouldn't mess with. You just leave it there and let React or your code take care of it as needed. But this is just to show you, I guess, just how much extra code or functionality that it just kind of brings in. You know, how much of it is necessary, I don't really know. But kind of crazy though. Oh, let's see, 800 something, and it's, how big is this guy? Yeah, it's like 200 size on disk, 270 megabytes. It's pretty large, but we don't have to worry about that too much. Okay, so now the way to run a React project once you're here is you need to go to the project. So first of all, I'm in test examples. If I type ls, there's one folder under it called the super cool test app. Let's go there. So cd, change directory to super, and then I can just tab that to let it autofill it. Whoops. Enter. Okay, ls. Oh, and you can see there's the files we got here, Node Modules, the README, package lock JSON. Okay, so once you're inside the project, which I'm in, I'm like right here. Here's one thing we can do. If we type code, and this is to open the Visual Studio Code, the Visual Studio Code command line interface. And so if it's space dot, so it tells Visual Studio Code to open it up where you're in the folder that you're in. The dot is the folder that you're in. So I'm gonna just press enter here. Okay. Do you trust the authors? Yep. We'll just say we do. And so now this is the same thing as here. Node modules, public source, right? But this is nice because this is primarily where you're going to be working. You're going to be working in this code editor at the project level. And now if I click something like, okay, package.json, I don't know what it is, but it's a .json file. And look at this. This looks very similar, right? It's like what we were talking about earlier. This is the JSON format of structuring things. So curly brackets, so it's like an object with a key and a value pair. Key and a value, key value. I guess some things you can sort of recognize. Name, super cool test app, that makes sense, right? Here's some starter commands you can use. So the command that we're going to use is npm start. And that means it's going to run npm run react scripts start. That's the official command that it should be running if we do npm start. Okay. And then so let's go ahead and try that. So going back to git bash, that command line. We're going to, let's see, let me just double check. Still recording? Cool. Yep. Okay, we're going to run that command npm start. Enter. Okay, it does some stuff. Do you want to allow Node? Sure, because Node's that web server we were talking about. How do you want to open it? Firefox is a good web browser. Let's do that. Oh, look at that. So if you got to this point and you've been following along, I mean, you can just watch me, but if you've been following along with yourself, I think you learned better. But if you've been doing that, congratulations. You just created your first React website. It's pretty cool, huh? It's like, look at that. It's nice. Got the nice little logo, and it's kind of, you could watch it forever. But yeah, we're not gonna, we won't stay too long. We'll linger a little bit. We'll keep it here. But some points to note. Okay, we started the program. It says compiled successfully. That means it was able to translate the code, process it into something that the computer could understand. So it compiled our English-like code into the ones and zeros. It says it's pushed. Well, you can now view super cool test app in the web browser. So in our like Firefox or Chrome or whatnot, and it put it on localhost 3000. Localhost means it's your computer. So it's right now you're just running it from your own computer on something called a port, the port of 3000. You don't have to worry about that too much at the moment. But this is a good way of, you can test the website locally, and if you can get it working here, then one day you can like port it to the internet. And if you do that, then everyone can look at the website. Everyone who has, everyone who can access it. So that's kind of the power of the websites and the power of the internet. You can create it and then make it like available to everyone practically, or everyone who has access to the internet. But yeah, let's see. This is cool. Another thing to note is it looks like the program is kind of stuck in a sense. Like it's here, but if it was completed, it would take us back to this little $, back to the command line, right? Or the beginning, whatever you want to call it, the prompt, the command line prompt. But right now it's kind of like, it's telling us it's here, but it's kind of like in a stuck state. I can press enter and it's kind of still there. Because right now it's like, it's running this program, it's running this website, and it's going to stay there until we exit out. And we can do that by pressing Control-C if you want to cancel, but let's keep the website going for a bit longer. So this window is kind of stuck in a sense. We can't run any other commands until we cancel the website. So let's leave it here, and let's see if we can find out where is this code. It's cool that we started it and we created this website. It's up and running on our local machine. But like how, where is this happening? So let's go ahead and, okay, let's go ahead and open this code, right? The super cool test app code. And again, it's just the files all the way up to that folder, so nothing beyond it. One thing you can do is you can do a search. Let's see if we can find, okay. Well, it says edit source app.js and save to reload. But let's see. How about, let's try to find something unique that we can find. How about Warn React? Warn React. Okay. Okay. Looks like it found a few instances. There's one here, readme to Warn React. Check out the, okay, I don't think that's the same thing. Warn React. Okay, wait, what's this? Warn React. And it says edit source app.js. Okay, I'm gonna press. Look at that. That looks like this looks like where we're at, because you can see the text is the same, right? That seems to imply this code is probably this here. Is there a way to test that? Let's see. How about, well, let's try adding something in. Save to reload. I'll say, okay, I will add a change and save. So I added that text. I'm going to Control S to save it. Oh wait, what's that? It just changed. Okay, I will add change to save. So this is the power of, you know, React and Node. They're like, Node is running this in our local server, our local machine. It's creating like a local web server. But not only that, when you make a change, you can see it right away, which is incredible. You know, I think one of the things I love about programming is the feedback that it gives you. The ability to just like make a change, like a small change or a big change, and see it instantly is, you know, it's amazing. It's like it helps you learn. It can help you learn it, and it's like a really fun thing to test and play with. And so, yeah, just some of the power of it, of React and programming. But I like how snappy this is, because other programs, you can create them and compile them, but it takes a lot longer to like change the code and then see it instantly. Sometimes it'll take like, you know, half a minute or something. But this one's like, okay, it's small enough where it's just like instant. Okay, so okay, what's this? I saved it, and I changed it a little bit, but it looks like nothing's changing, so that tells me it doesn't recognize the change. Well, let's see. Doesn't recognize the change. Okay, so what's up here? Okay, well, if you look at this code, so this is like code, but if you look at this looks kind of familiar, right? This stuff looks very similar to something we've seen before. This is like HTML, right? In this case, the div is just like an empty container with nothing special attached to it. So if I click on it, it's nice because it highlights the closing tag as well. Okay, so it's saying that everything here is inside this div container. All right, what if I click the header? Okay, okay, basically everything is also in the header. What's this? This is IMG logo. Okay, so this is probably the spinning thing right here. What if I, what if I copy this and then I spit another one out? Let's try saving it. Oh, look at that. So now there's two of them. Isn't that crazy? So I was right in my guess. It's like this image is that logo. And so I can kind of, I can do other stuff with it. Maybe I don't like it on top. Maybe I want it to be on bottom instead. So now it's on bottom. Yeah, it's pretty, so it's pretty nice. It's a fun toy and tool to play with. Okay, but what about this? How come this guy isn't making a line break and isn't going down? Well, if you look at it, okay, if you remember, since this is like code or HTML, this is like HTML right now, the white space didn't matter in the HTML, right? And in the code, like a single space was treated the same thing as a line break, or the same thing as multiple spaces. So instead, in order to create a line break, you need to do the break tag, right? BR, and then it needs a self-close tag. So let's try that. So I'm going to save it. Oh, okay. So now it went down one. It looks pretty good right there. But if I wanted to, I could do another break tag. So I can if I'm at the end of the line and I can Control C to copy, then it'll just copy everything before it. It'll copy the whole line. So I'll go Control C, Control V, and then Control S to save. Okay, yeah, so now I'll give you another line. All right, so that's, the very basic minimums of getting the React page started. But from this point, you could play, you could play with it, and you can learn a lot. You don't need any formal education. I mean, now that you've gotten to this point, you could basically go from here, self-study, look at stuff online, look at examples, and you could become like a professional code developer. No formal education needed. The only thing holding you back is basically the only thing that you need basically is just practice and time and wrestling with the programming concepts and trying to figure it out. And then, just trying to mess around, play with the code, see what works, see what doesn't. Over time, learn how to write better code, write better variable names, stuff like that. But, you have the tools. You have the tools in your hands now. Everything you need is basically there to create an amazing site. But from there, deploying it, and then some of the other specifics, that's extra stuff that you can learn later. But this is like, you can say this is like the front end. This is the website that people interact with. Like from this point, you can become a really amazing front end developer. And yeah, so kudos to you and congratulations for sticking with it and getting this far. So I'll say, yeah, congrats. That's the end of this video, and see you in the next one.